What happens when a Hollywood royal walks onto a morning show set thinking she owns the place, only to have her true colors exposed on live television? In just 41 seconds, one shocking comment would end her interview and reveal the entitled attitude America never knew existed. But before we get into this absolute disaster of an interview, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because we're pulling back the curtain on royalty's dark side. We're exposing entitled celebrities and their shocking behavior the cameras never showed you. We've got the raw footage they don't want you to see, and you won't want to miss a single reveal. And make sure you comment below with your thoughts on this outrageous behavior, because what you're about to hear is going to leave you speechless. So let's set the scene. It's a typical morning at the Good Morning America studios. The lights are bright, the cameras are rolling, and America is tuning in for their daily dose of celebrity news and feel-good stories. Lara Spencer, beloved host and morning television veteran, is sitting across from one of the most talked-about women in the world. The interview was supposed to be a simple chat about charity work and new projects. What America got instead was a complete meltdown that would go down in television history. From the very first moment, something felt off. Lara, always the professional, welcomed her guests with a warm smile and genuine enthusiasm. She had done her homework, prepared thoughtful questions, and was ready to give her guests the platform to share her message. But right from the start, there was this energy, this vibe that something wasn't quite right. Lara opened with a softball question, something easy and positive. "Thank you so much for being here this morning. We're so excited to have you. Let's start with your charity work. Can you tell our viewers about the causes that are closest to your heart?" Simple question, right? The kind of question any celebrity would love to answer. But instead of a gracious response, instead of taking the opportunity to talk about something meaningful, the response was cold. There was this pause, this look, and then came the words that would set the tone for everything that followed. "Well, Lara, I think what's important here is that people understand. I don't just do charity work for publicity. Unlike some people on television, I actually care about making a difference." The studio went quiet. You could feel the tension immediately. Lara, being the professional she is, didn't miss a beat. She smiled, nodded, and tried to move forward. "Of course, absolutely. No one is questioning your commitment. I think our viewers would just love to hear more about the specific organizations you're working with." But that's when things started to escalate. Instead of answering the question, instead of just talking about the charities, there was this shift. The guest leaned back in her chair, crossed her arms, and looked at Lara like she had just asked the most offensive question in the world. "You know what, Lara? I find it really interesting that every time I sit down for an interview, the focus is always on me proving myself. Why is that? Why do I have to constantly justify my work when other celebrities just get praised without question?" Lara's face showed genuine confusion. This was supposed to be a friendly interview. This was morning television. Families were watching over breakfast. This wasn't supposed to be confrontational. "I apologize if it came across that way. That certainly wasn't my intention. I think you're doing wonderful work, and I just wanted to give you the opportunity to share it with our audience." Most people would have taken that. Most people would have recognized that Lara was being nothing but kind and respectful. But not this guest. Oh no, this guest saw an opportunity to make this about her, to play the victim, to turn a simple morning show appearance into a platform for grievances. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The opportunity to share? I'm not here begging for opportunities, Lara. I'm here because your producers begged me to come on this show. Let's be clear about that. The crew behind the cameras exchanged glances. This was live television. Millions of people were watching, and this guest was completely unraveling right before America's eyes. Lara, still maintaining her composure, still trying to salvage what was quickly becoming a disaster, took a breath and tried once more. "I think there might be some miscommunication here. We're thrilled to have you, and I know our viewers are excited to hear from you. Let's maybe start over. Why don't you tell us about your latest project?" But starting over wasn't good enough. Nothing was going to be good enough because this wasn't about the questions. This was about someone who came onto that set with an agenda, with a chip on her shoulder, with an attitude that she was somehow above the entire process. Start over? No, Lara, I don't think so. I think what needs to happen here is that you and your team need to understand who you're dealing with. I'm not some reality TV star desperate for airtime. I'm not some influencer trying to stay relevant. Do you understand the gravity of who is sitting across from you right now? The entire studio was in shock. Lara's co-hosts, who had been watching from the side, looked absolutely stunned. The producers in the control room were scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. This was unprecedented. This was a level of entitlement and rudeness that morning television had never seen before. Lara, to her absolute credit, remained calm. Her voice was steady, her demeanor was professional, and she tried one more time to bring this back to a place of civility. "I completely understand who you are, and I have the utmost respect for you. I think maybe we got off on the wrong foot here. This is meant to be a conversation, a chance for you to connect with people who admire you. Can we please just have that conversation?" And that's when it happened. That's when the guest said the words that would end the interview, the words that would shock America, the words that proved once and for all that some people are so lost in their own sense of importance that they forget basic human decency. Connect with people who admire me? Lara, let me tell you something. These people watching right now, they don't admire me. They don't even know me. They know a version of me that the media has created. And honestly, I don't need their admiration. I don't need to sit here and smile and perform for Middle America's breakfast entertainment. I came here as a favor, and quite frankly, I'm starting to regret that decision. Maybe this interview was a mistake. Maybe you're not equipped to handle a conversation with someone at my level. The silence that followed was deafening. Lara sat there, her expression a mixture of shock and disappointment. Not disappointment in herself, but disappointment that someone could be so incredibly rude, so unnecessarily cruel, so completely out of touch with reality. And then Lara did something that made her a hero to everyone watching. She didn't yell, she didn't get defensive, she didn't sink to that level. She simply looked directly into the camera, then back at her guest, and said something that will be remembered forever. "You know what? I've been doing this job for a very long time. I've interviewed hundreds of people, some of the biggest names in the world, and I have never, not once, had someone speak to me or our viewers with such disrespect. This show is about connecting with people, about having genuine conversations, about showing respect. And if you can't do that, if you think you're somehow above that, then you're right. This interview was a mistake." The guest's face changed immediately. Suddenly, the mask slipped. Suddenly, she realized that maybe she had gone too far. But it was too late. The damage was done. America had seen the real person behind the polished public image. "Excuse me? Are you seriously speaking to me like this right now?" Lara didn't back down. "Not for a second. I'm speaking to you the way I would speak to anyone who comes onto this show and treats people with contempt. You walked in here with an attitude, you've been condescending and rude from the first question, and you just insulted millions of viewers who woke up this morning excited to hear from you. So yes, I am speaking to you like this." The guest stood up. Actually stood up in the middle of a live television interview. The camera operators didn't know where to point their cameras. The producers were losing their minds. This was chaos. This was television history unfolding in real time. "I don't have to sit here and listen to this. Do you know who I am? Do you have any idea what I could do to your career, to this show?" And that's when Lara delivered the final blow, the moment that would be clipped and shared and replayed millions of times. "Yes, I know exactly who you are. You're someone who forgot that kindness matters. You're someone who forgot that no amount of fame or status gives you the right to treat people poorly. And as for what you could do to my career or this show, we'll be just fine. We've built our reputation on respect and authenticity, something you clearly know nothing about." The guest grabbed her microphone pack, yanked it off, and threw it onto the chair. Threw it. Like a child having a tantrum, and then she stormed off the set, her heels clicking aggressively against the studio floor, her face red with anger and embarrassment. Lara sat there for a moment, collecting herself. The camera stayed on her face, and you could see her taking a deep breath. Then she looked directly into the camera and spoke to America. "Well, folks, I apologize that you had to witness that. That was certainly not what we had planned for this morning. But I want you to know that we will always, always stand up for respect and decency on this show. No one, and I mean no one, is above treating people with basic human kindness." The studio erupted in applause. The crew, the staff, everyone who had witnessed that disaster started clapping. They were clapping for Lara. They were clapping because she had done what so many people wish they could do when faced with entitled, rude behavior. She had stood her ground. She had defended not just herself, but every single person watching at home. But it didn't end there. Oh no, because as the guest was storming through the backstage area, her meltdown continued. Staff members reported hearing her screaming at producers, demanding that the footage be destroyed, threatening legal action, making demands that no one was going to meet. "You need to delete that footage right now. Do you understand me? That cannot air. I will sue this network. I will sue every single person involved in this. You have no right to make me look like that." But here's the thing about live television. It was already out there. Millions of people had already seen it. The internet was already exploding with reactions. There was no taking it back. There was no deleting the footage. The truth was out there for everyone to see. One producer, who had been with Good Morning America for years, apparently told her something that needed to be said. "Ma'am, we didn't make you look like anything. You did that all by yourself. Maybe instead of threatening lawsuits, you should think about why you acted that way in the first place." That apparently didn't go over well. The guest demanded that security escort her out immediately, that her car be brought around, that everyone stay away from her. It was a complete disaster, a total meltdown. And it was all because one person thought they were too important to show basic respect. Back in the studio, Lara had to continue with the show. She had to transition to the next segment, had to smile and move forward like a professional. And that's exactly what she did, because that's who Lara Spencer is. That's what a real professional looks like. Someone who can handle chaos with grace, who can stand up for what's right without losing their cool, who can move forward with dignity, even when others have none. Her co-hosts rallied around her. They supported her. They made sure America knew that what they had just witnessed was not normal, was not acceptable, and would not be tolerated. "I just want to say," one of them added, "that Lara handled that with more grace and professionalism than I've ever seen. That was incredibly difficult, and she stood up for all of us, for every person who has ever been treated poorly by someone who thinks their fame makes them special." The response from viewers was immediate and overwhelming. Social media exploded with support for Lara. People shared their own stories of dealing with entitled celebrities, of being treated poorly by people who think they're above basic decency. The hashtag started trending within minutes. America had made their choice. They stood with Lara. They stood with respect and kindness. They stood against entitlement and rudeness. News outlets picked up the story immediately. Other talk shows discussed it. Entertainment reporters analyzed every moment. And the consensus was universal. Lara Spencer had done nothing wrong. She had asked normal questions. She had been professional and kind. She had tried repeatedly to make the interview work. And when faced with inexcusable behavior, she had stood her ground. Meanwhile, the guest team went into crisis mode. They started making calls, trying to do damage control, trying to spin the narrative. But there was no spinning this. There was no way to make this look good. America had seen it with their own eyes. They had watched a beloved morning show host be treated with contempt for no reason. They had watched someone throw a tantrum on live television because they couldn't handle being asked simple questions. Some tried to defend her. Some tried to say that maybe she was having a bad day, that maybe there was more to the story. But the footage spoke for itself. There was no hidden context that would make that behavior acceptable. There was no explanation that would justify that level of rudeness and entitlement. Back at the Good Morning America studios, the mood was somber but also proud. The team had witnessed something unprecedented, but they had also watched their colleague handle it with incredible grace. They knew that Lara had done the right thing. They knew that standing up to that kind of behavior was important, not just for them, but for everyone watching at home who had ever been made to feel small by someone who thinks they're important. The interview that was supposed to last 20 minutes ended in less than 10. The segment that was supposed to be a positive, uplifting conversation about charity work and new projects became a lesson in how not to behave. The guest who thought she was above it all learned a very public lesson about humility and respect. What makes this whole situation even more remarkable is how Lara handled the aftermath. She didn't go on a press tour talking about it. She didn't write a tell-all article. She didn't try to milk the moment for attention. She simply moved on, continued doing her job, and let her actions speak for themselves. That's class. That's integrity. That's what real professionalism looks like. The crew members who were there that day still talk about it. They talk about how tense the atmosphere was, how shocked they were by what they were witnessing, and how proud they were of Lara for standing up not just for herself, but for all of them. Because that's what she did. She stood up for every crew member, every staff member, every person who works behind the scenes and often gets treated like they're invisible by entitled celebrities. One camera operator later said that in all his years working in television, he had never seen anything like it. He said that guests sometimes get a little difficult, sometimes have specific requests or preferences, but he had never seen someone come onto a set with that level of attitude and disrespect from the very beginning. A makeup artist who had worked with the guest before the interview said that even during hair and makeup, there was an attitude. There were complaints about everything. The lighting wasn't right. The chair wasn't comfortable. The makeup wasn't what she wanted. Nothing was good enough. And when staff tried to accommodate her requests, they were met with more complaints and demands. This wasn't someone having a bad day. This was someone who genuinely believed that everyone around her existed to serve her, that her comfort and preferences were more important than anyone else's, that basic politeness didn't apply to her. And the saddest part? This could have been such a positive moment. This could have been an opportunity to connect with millions of people, to share important messages about charity work, to inspire and uplift. Instead, it became a cautionary tale about what happens when fame goes to your head, when you lose sight of what really matters, when you forget that respect is a two-way street. Lara's questions weren't tough. They weren't gotcha questions. They weren't designed to make anyone look bad. They were exactly the kind of questions you'd expect on a morning show. Friendly, open-ended, designed to let the guest shine. But even that wasn't good enough for someone who walked in looking for a fight, looking for a reason to play the victim, looking for attention. The irony is that she got attention, just not the kind she wanted. She got attention for being rude. She got attention for being entitled. She got attention for treating a beloved television host and millions of viewers with contempt. That's what she'll be remembered for. Not her charity work, not her projects, but this moment, this spectacular display of poor behavior. And Lara will be remembered for handling an impossible situation with grace and dignity. She'll be remembered for standing up for what's right. She'll be remembered for showing that no amount of fame or status excuses bad behavior. She'll be remembered as someone who treated everyone with respect and expected the same in return. The lesson here is simple but powerful. It doesn't matter how famous you are. It doesn't matter what titles you have or what family you married into. It doesn't matter how many followers you have or how much money you make. None of that gives you the right to treat people poorly. None of that makes you special enough to be rude. None of that exempts you from basic human decency. Good Morning America didn't need to issue a statement defending Lara. They didn't need to explain what happened or offer apologies, because America had seen it. America understood. America knew exactly who was in the wrong. And America stood firmly on the side of kindness and respect. This moment became more than just a viral clip. It became a conversation starter. It became a moment where people could point to and say, "This is not okay. This is not how we treat each other." It became a reminder that we should never tolerate entitled behavior, no matter who it's coming from. The guest may have walked off that set thinking she had won something, thinking she had stood up for herself, thinking she had put Lara in her place. But in reality, she had lost. She had lost respect. She had lost credibility. She had lost the opportunity to share her message with millions of people. And worst of all, she had revealed her true character to the world. Meanwhile, Lara gained even more respect and admiration. She showed strength without aggression. She showed firmness without cruelty. She showed that you can stand up for yourself and others while maintaining your dignity and composure. That's a masterclass in how to handle difficult situations. The phrase, "at my level," that the guest used became a symbol of everything wrong with celebrity culture. It became a punchline. It became shorthand for entitled behavior. Because what level is she talking about? The level where you're too important to be kind? The level where you can't answer simple questions? The level where you treat television crews like servants? That's not a level anyone should aspire to. Lara's response showed that there's only one level that matters. The level where we treat each other with respect. The level where we recognize that everyone deserves dignity. The level where we understand that fame and success should make us more humble, not more arrogant. In the days that followed, other celebrities and public figures weighed in. Many praised Lara for her handling of the situation. Many shared their own experiences with difficult interviews. Many reminded everyone that most celebrities are gracious and kind, but when someone acts the way this guest did, it needs to be called out. Some entertainment journalists who had interviewed the guests before came forward with their own stories. Apparently, this wasn't an isolated incident. This was a pattern. There were stories of interviews being canceled at the last minute because questions weren't approved. Stories of journalists being blacklisted for asking anything remotely challenging. Stories of demands and diva behavior that would make your head spin. But here's what made the Good Morning America incident different. It was live. It was unedited. It was raw and real and impossible to deny. There was no PR spin that could fix it. There was no editing that could smooth it over. America saw exactly what happened, exactly how she acted, and exactly how Lara responded. The fact that this all happened in 41 seconds makes it even more remarkable. 41 seconds from a normal interview question to a complete meltdown. 41 seconds to show your true colors. 41 seconds to destroy your own reputation. 41 seconds that will follow this guest for the rest of her career. Those 41 seconds contained everything anyone needs to know about character. They showed who gets defensive when asked normal questions. They showed who thinks they're above basic politeness. They showed who can't handle even the gentlest level of media attention without having a breakdown. And they showed who remains calm and professional even when being attacked for no reason. If you work in television, if you work with celebrities, if you work in any kind of public-facing role, you probably watch that interview and recognize something. You probably recognize that type of person. The person who thinks that everyone should be grateful just to be in their presence. The person who makes everything difficult because they can. The person who creates drama where none needs to exist. And if you're just a regular person watching at home, you probably recognize something too. You probably recognize that feeling of being talked down to. That feeling of being treated like you don't matter. That feeling of watching someone be unnecessarily rude and wishing someone would call them out on it. And that's exactly what Lara did. She called it out. This wasn't about two people having different communication styles. This wasn't about a misunderstanding that got blown out of proportion. This was about one person being consistently, deliberately rude, and another person refusing to accept that behavior. It was that simple. The guest had every opportunity to course correct. Lara gave her multiple chances to turn things around, to take a breath, and start fresh. But instead, she doubled down. She got worse. She escalated. Because this wasn't about the questions or the interview. This was about someone who needed to feel superior, who needed to be the center of attention, who needed everyone to know how important she thought she was. What she didn't count on was facing someone like Lara Spencer. Someone who has been in the industry long enough to not be intimidated. Someone who has enough respect for herself and her audience to not tolerate that kind of behavior. Someone who understands that sometimes the most professional thing you can do is to stand up and say, "This is not acceptable." The moment when Lara said that the guest was someone who forgot that kindness matters was so powerful, because that's really what it all comes down to. Kindness. Basic human kindness. It's not complicated. It's not difficult. It's not asking too much. But for some people, apparently it is. For some people, being kind is somehow beneath them. And that comment about not needing the admiration of middle America really showed the guest's true feelings. It showed that she looks down on regular people. It showed that she thinks she's better than the millions of Americans who are watching. It showed a level of snobbery and elitism that is truly ugly. Lara's audience, those millions of Americans the guest so casually dismissed, are the reason that show exists. They're hardworking people, they're families, they're teachers and nurses and construction workers and small business owners. They're people who wake up early, who work hard, who try to do their best, and they deserve better than to be insulted by someone who thinks she's special. The fact that the guest couldn't see that, couldn't understand that, couldn't appreciate that those viewers are the reason she has any platform at all, shows how disconnected from reality she had become. Fame had clearly gone to her head. Success had clearly made her forget where she came from. Status had clearly made her think the normal rules of human interaction didn't apply to her, but they do apply. They apply to everyone. And that's what makes this moment so important. It reminded everyone that fame doesn't make you exempt from being a decent person. Money doesn't make you exempt from being respectful. Status doesn't make you exempt from basic kindness. Lara didn't embarrass the guest. The guest embarrassed herself. Lara didn't make her look bad. The guest did that all on her own. Lara simply refused to pretend that the behavior was acceptable. And in doing so, she became a hero to millions of people who are tired of watching entitled celebrities get away with treating others poorly. This moment will be studied in broadcast journalism classes. It will be analyzed as an example of how to handle a difficult guest. It will be shown to young journalists as proof that standing up for yourself and your audience is not only acceptable, it's necessary. It will be remembered as the day that one morning show host said, "Enough is enough." And for the guest, this will follow her forever. Every interview she does from now on, this will be mentioned. Every public appearance, people will remember. Every time she tries to rehabilitate her image, this footage will resurface. Because the internet never forgets. And 41 seconds of entitled behavior captured on live television is permanent. The sad thing is, it didn't have to be this way. If she had just answered the questions, if she had just been polite, if she had just treated Lara and the viewers with a tiny bit of respect, this could have been a great interview. She could have shared her message. She could have connected with people. She could have done some good. Instead, she threw it all away because her ego was more important than anything else. So let this be a lesson Let this be a reminder. Let this be proof that character matters more than fame, that how you treat people matters more than your status. That respect is not optional, no matter who you think you are, and that sometimes the most important thing a person can do is stand up and say, "This is not okay." Lara Spencer did that, and America loved her for it. That's the real story here.